Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and however and wherever you're listening to the podcast. We just appreciate that you are. This is the Delaware High School Football Podcast, the only media outlet that covers exclusively Delaware High School football. It's available wherever you listen to your podcast and also on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. Follow us on X. Just Google us and it'll come up for sure. As always, today, the big story. What is it? Where is it? How did it happen? And then we are going to talk about the other games. We'll make our predictions, hand out several helmet stickers, and of course, our Player of the Week T-shirt. And then it's on to the state championship games. There'll be one more podcast after this week. But first, let's talk about our title sponsor, websitesforsports.com. That's websites, the number 4sports.com. Designed by Brian Rutter. Goes back to 2005, I realized when I was looking up some information. And you know what? It may go back earlier than that. That's just as far back as you can go. It's the only one-stop shop for everything high school sports, whether you're a fan, a relative, a player yourself. You can sign up for alerts. I did that last night. I signed up for my son's golf schedule and his unified basketball schedule for this season to be alerted when that changes. And the bottom line is it's the only place you can go to get all that information. We can't thank Brian Rutter enough for being the sponsor of this podcast from the beginning. That's websitesforsports.com. Websites, the number 4sports.com. All right, the big story. Marty, you're the big story. For the second week in a row, you were broadcasting the biggest upset.
Yep.
I don't want to say of the year because I'm not ready to go there yet.
Right.
But it was the Red Lion Howard game. Red Lion trailed by, I think it was 16 at one point, came back, won in overtime. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because you were there, so you got a sense. I was watching it on TV, the end of it. But when I say I'm not ready to go to the point that it was the biggest upset of the year, because I actually think McCain beating Seaford was the biggest
Being Conrad.
Beating Conrad, the biggest upset of the year. Anybody that beat Seaford would have been the biggest upset of the year, as far as I'm concerned so far. But anyway, because, Howard, I don't want to say they struggled to beat Archmere, but they beat Archmere in a reasonable fashion, meaning, it wasn't a blowout like they did to most teams this year. And so as their schedule got a little bit tougher, so did the scores got a little bit closer. But, I think I was impressed as much with Red Lions come from behind victory. They've got a potent offense. There's no question about that. And it was an overtime kick. Tegan Norris, the kicker, J.R. Montgomery, the long snapper, Matt Laverty, the holder, and of course, Evan Budinger had just an incredible day. Became the all-time leading passer in the state of Delaware, surpassing Nolan Henderson of Smyrna, 7,829 yards. And when you think about it, that's pretty incredible. And, Nolan Henderson had the advantage, I want to say, and I'm not taking anything away what Nolan did.
Right.
He played in a state championship game just about every year of his career. And so he had an extra game. Evan Budinger, this is the first state championship trip for Red Lion. And so, it makes it even more impressive. And so just an incredible comeback. It was fun to watch. And I'm going to turn it over to you because you were there, and there's nothing like being there. As great as the broadcasts are, the NFHS coverage, the broadcasting crew, including yourself, there is nothing like being at a game like that. You just can't match that sitting on your living room couch at home watching it on TV, like I was. So take it away.
First of all, 2 points real quick. It's funny, too, that Budinger is a product of the Henderson training quarterback class. He's a student of Nolan Henderson's. And the other, and I'd forgotten this, believe it or not, Ken Anderson pointed this out to me last night. You actually called the Red Lion win over Howard. That was your prediction.
Yes, I did.
Last week. Ken Anderson, I was like, yeah, he had to stick that in there because I was congratulating him. He's like, yeah, tell John we were honored that he picked us to win. I'm like, oh, man, I forgot about that.
He sent me a text Sunday morning thanking me.
This game was incredible. It started out easy enough. A minute and a half into the game, Howard's up 8-0. You're thinking, okay, here we go. And then it gets to 16-0. And this is where the things started to really get crazy early in the game. Red Lion had some trouble punting the football to the point of they had 3 consecutive punts, which went about a total of about 35 yards. I'm not sure what the problem was. One went 5 yards and gave Howard a first down at the 26-yard line. The game ended up 41-40, but I got to tell you, the Red Lion defense was incredible because this game should have been a running clock at halftime. And Red Lion's defense kept Howard out, I believe it was 2 or 3 times inside the 20-yard line on downs. Howard does not kick. So every time they're down there, no matter how close they get, they go for it. They got to a point where it was 4th and goal from the 2, and they didn't get in. Uh, the defense kept coming up strong and strong and strong, and then we had a stretch where one of the centers for one of the teams committed 3 snap infractions in a row. Which and I've never seen this before, but the referee actually stopped the game and gave the kid a clinic on what and what not to do with the snap, which I thought was fantastic. And the ref who was in the box with us said, you know what? He's going to call this 50 times if he doesn't explain to this kid how to do this.
Huh. Interesting.
What was happening was the kid was spinning the football. Obviously, something the kid has done all year and has never been called.
Right.
According to the ref in the box with us, it was a point of emphasis. So eventually they got things straight because we kept seeing a false start after false start after false start. And of course, there's no microphone on the referees, so we couldn't tell. And then the guy was telling us it's a snap infraction. He's spinning the football and then replacing it on the ground.
Gotcha. Okay, I got
to
you.
the line. Yeah.
Not spinning it when he's hiking it. He's spinning it before he snaps the ball.
Exactly. Yes. So the referee actually got down in like a snap position and showed how to make sure you don't turn the ball, and eventually got to the point where he would come in and put the football exactly the way the kid wanted it so he can get down and snap it. I found out it was not the starting center that had been there for most of the season, so it was understandable. It was just kind of one of those crazy things, but it added to this crazy game. And throughout the first half, Howard just coming their offense was just humming along, but they could not put it away. So they're up 22-6 at halftime. Pat and I both said, Pat Garianis, who called the game with me, the body language for Red Lion was horrible at halftime. The helmets, guys ripping off their helmets, and we said, you know what, the first thing Ken Anderson's got to do, forget X's and O's. He's got to remind these guys, this is a 2-score game in the semifinals. We've got one heck of an offense. Our defense just busted their butt to save us from being running clocked.
Yep.
They came out in the second half with an entirely different attitude. Ken Anderson Jr., the offensive coordinator, put together a great game plan. But it's funny. I like one of the quotes in the paper is Ken Anderson said, we kept scoring on 4th down. And they did. At one point, they got, I believe it was 4th and 17 from their own 30-yard line. And Evan Budinger throws this pass, and when he threw it, and there were people all deep for Howard. There were 4 Howard defenders, defensive backs back there. When he released it, the wide receiver had not yet caught up to the 4 defensive backs. Because Budinger had rolled out on the play, the defensive backs kind of hesitated a minute, thinking he may run. The receiver blasted right past them. This pass, which was an absolute BB down the field, hits him in stride, and it's a 70-yard touchdown on 4th and 17.
Wow. You're
thinking, okay, this is starting to get a little crazy here. But the play of the game was, and this is, I talked about online about this with a bunch of people, and it's not calling anyone out. It wasn't anything that was done wrong. Howard gets the ball back. They're up 28-26. Red Lion has 1 timeout left. There's 1 minute and 56 seconds left in the game. 3 kneel downs, and this game is over. Right. You might have to punt with maybe 10, 15 seconds left. On the first play of the drive, Jamison Bryant breaks, I'm going to say, 8 to 10 tackles through the middle because every Red Lion player was stripping away at the football and no one was grabbing him.
Wow.
He pops out from the pile or from the scrum and runs 55 yards for a touchdown. Now, as he's saying it, Pat and I look at each other, Pat Garianis, and we're both saying, get down. And Pat actually says it on the air. He's like, don't score, get down. Because if he gets down, it's 3 kneels a game. They have to use their final timeout. There's about a minute, 40 seconds left. The game's over. Right. Red Lion wins. Right. So this touchdown, ironically, and again, I'm not blaming Jamison Bryant for this, and I made clear this online. You're a quarterback and you get through there. The first thing you're seeing is daylight. You're taught score. You're going to score.
Right.
The funny thing was some Red Lion people started leaving on the other side of the field. And Pat and I are saying, that inadvertently, they just gave Red Lion a chance in this game. Red Lion was never getting the ball back.
No, right.
So, of course, Red Lion gets the kickoff. It's a great kickoff return to their own 45-yard line. They come down. They're still down. It's 4th down, 8 seconds to play. They're still down by 8. They get a touchdown, of course, on a diving catch in the back of the end zone, corner of the end zone.
Right.
Judea Barber runs in with the 2-point conversion. And by the way, we've been saying Judah Barber all year long. I found out from Ken Anderson it's Judea Barber.
Oh, really?
Is his name? Yes. I got a couple good pronunciations from Ken too before the game. That was great. So anyway, we're going to overtime, tied at 34. Howard gets a touchdown, and of course, again, they don't employ a kicker, so they never kick. And I love Brad Myers. I got to give him credit where credit's due here. The first line of his article is great. It says, "One of the most unlikely wins in the history of Delaware high school football playoffs was decided by a play that hadn't been attempted all day." An extra point. And it's true. The kicker,
Yeah.
Tegan Norris, had never come in for an extra point all game. They'd gone for two, knowing they have to keep up with Howard.
Right.
He gets up there, and I tell you what, we're a half second from the snap when Dan Ritter uses his last time out. And both of us look at each other, Pat, and we're talking. I said, in the NFL and the college, nobody cares about that. It doesn't ice anybody. They're so used to doing it. In high school, I think it has an effect on kids. Yeah.
Especially if you haven't done it.
This kid's wandering around
preseason,
exactly
before the game, since the pregame.
Yep. And the other part of this, and we talked about this too on air, was the holder and the snapper are also getting time to think about things in their mind now. I got to get a perfect snap. I got to get a perfect hold. There is a perfect picture from Benjamin Chambers, who took the pictures for Delaware Online, of the hold, and just as Tegan Norris is hitting the kick. It's an amazing picture, but it's a perfect hold. Laces out. So he hits the extra point, and the celebration is on. And the funny thing is because this game had so many twists and turns, nobody changed the scoreboard. So for about 3 minutes after the game, people are still milling about, and we're looking over, and I said, "Is the game over?" And he's like, "I think so." And we're all looking because the scoreboard guy has left. It's 40-40. So finally, somebody came in. We got the scoreboard done, and it was the craziest game. I mean, Red Line, the combination of luck and skill. They got a couple plays. They had a pass that bounced off a receiver and went to another one who ran 40 yards for it down to the 10.
Right.
They ran the hook and ladder play to perfection, just like Indian River did last year in the state championship game.
Yep.
It got him a first down again on fourth down. Evan Buttinger, anybody who doubted this kid's talent, you and I have been on him for years about being a super talented kid.
Yep.
I like the kid that Ken Anderson keeps the Ferrari in the garage, because with Judea Barber and Jordan Jones, they don't need him as much. They let him out in the second half, and holy smokes, can he throw the football?
Went for a spin ride.
It's in the first half, it was so frustrating for him because I think he had 3 drop passes, perfect passes, and Mekhi Richmond had 2 of them, and he's their top receiver. I don't think he let anything, Mekhi Richmond, touch the ground in the second half. Wow. He was on everything. So these kids all stepped up. The tears from Howard at the end were it just, I said right before the extra point, I said, we're going to get to the point. This is the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat.
Yeah.
It went from being an interesting game to the best and craziest football game I've ever seen. Yeah. And if you would have told me when it was 28-6 or 22-6 at halftime that Red Lion was going to put up 35 points in the second half against a Howard defense that's very good.
Yeah.
I would have said you were crazy. And credit to Howard. Amir Madri, well, that kid is a beast. He at the end of the first half, last play of the first half, and then I'll wrap it up here. Evan Buttinger was looking. They were trying to get down and score. There was about 10 seconds left. He couldn't find anybody, so he took off on a little scramble. Amir Madri hit him harder than I think I've seen anybody get hit all season, and it took Buttinger a minute to get up. And I thought, oh my gosh, if you're Ken Anderson, you're like, we're getting out of the half, we get to regroup, and all of a sudden my quarterback just takes a shot from hell from Amir Madri. But he gets up, everything's fine. But Amir Madri ran for over 100 yards. Jamison Bryant, Pat Garrianis and I talked about this on the broadcast. He seems like a 6-year senior. This kid seems like he's been in Delaware forever. He's a sophomore.
I know. Yeah.
His talent is insane, and he's growing. He's getting bigger. This kid is going to be a solid D1 prospect if he's not already on the radar of some of these schools. But it's just an amazing, amazing football game. And, shout out to the 302 guys, Benny Mitchell, Pat Garrianis, Glenn Frazier, and Nick Halliday for giving me a chance the last 2 weeks to call games.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sean Green texted me and said, 2 games, 2 points. I had 2 1-point games. So it was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
There's already underdogs for next year soliciting your service in the broadcast booth.
That's right.
All right. The last thing I'm going to say about Red Lion is I was thinking on my dog walk this morning. It's kind of a neat story because those of you that have been around high school football long enough, you remember the Red Lion back in the day when they were the national powerhouse.
Yep.
Not looked upon with smiles here in the state of Delaware because they were a national powerhouse. And as Butch Simpson told me, he said, John, 49 other states do what Red Lion does. It's just the
Right.
first time it's happened here in Delaware, where we've had a school that wanted to be a national power, and they developed their roster to do that. And long story short, like I said, it left a negative taste in a lot of people's mouths. That era of Red Lion football,
Yep.
which eventually moved and became Eastern Christian Academy,
Eastern
I think,
Christian Academy.
out of
Yep.
Elkton, and so,
Yep.
and then the football program went in the tank at Red
Yeah.
Lion. And I can't remember. I think they actually didn't have football, and then they came back as a JV team,
They did.
and then got back to where they are
Yep.
now.
The church that runs Red Lion had they basically cleaned house and started all over
scratch.
again.
Yeah. So anyway, again, don't want to spend a lot of time on that. What I think, the reason I brought it up, I think it's very neat that that a Red Lion team that is doing it the right way. They're doing it, they're getting kids from around the area like every other private school does. I'm not saying they're recruiting them. I'm saying they're another Christian school in Newcastle County. I believe if you looked up tuition prices, they might be the cheapest Christian school in Newcastle County compared to Sally's, St. E's, St. Mark's. Again, don't know all that. My point being,
Right.
they're a respected football program in the state of Delaware, unlike the regime that was, for lack of a better term, one of the best teams in the state and on the East Coast back in the day. So I think it's a great story. Ken Anderson, the head coach, has done a great job. Of course, has his son as an assistant coach. Evan Budinger, they've got the running back. So it's a feel-good story, I think, in some ways, for those of us who have been around Delaware High School football for 15 plus years type of thing.
And, real quick, to button that up, I tweeted last night, I said, how crazy is it? Red Lion pulls an absolute stunner on Saturday. On Sunday, former Red Lion starting quarterback David Sills scores the first touchdown of his 7-year NFL career.
Right. And it wasn't as a quarterback.
Connecting the two sides. Yeah, not as a quarterback.
It wasn't as a quarterback.
So kind of a cool weekend to be a Lion, even though you're right, that regime is long gone from the old Red Lion Eastern Christian Academy days.
Right, for sure. So, all righty, let's go to the other 2A game. Well, since we're in 2A, another overtime game. Indian River defeats Lake Forest 14-7. Another game that I watched on TV. Marty, I imagine you watched it on TV too.
I did.
It was tied 7-7 at the end of regulation. So, a defensive game to that point. Darnell Stokes scores on the first possession of overtime. They make the extra point, which means that Lake Forest has to score and make at least a 1 point extra point. The play that they ran was a halfback option, and the pass fell incomplete in the end zone, setting off the celebration for Indian River. Indian River becomes the first team to switch classes. Granted, we've only been switching classes for 2 different cycles now at this point, but the first one to reach the title game. It's their 21st straight win. And Marty, again, I just watched the end of this game, but in doing the research and looking at highlights and stuff like that, I realized that with that Indian River had a 7-0 lead. And 8 minutes.
Lake Forest,
excuse me. With 8 minutes left, and they chose to go for it in their own side of the field.
At their own 19-yard line.
19, yeah.
Yes.
And, I saw a tweet as soon as that game ended that the punt will be questioned forever.
Yeah, I tweeted as soon as it happened. I said, inexplicably, the Lake Forest, this is where the game turned 100%. I don't care what anyone says.
Right.
And we're not calling out the coaches or anything like that. It's just something that happened. There was it set the scene again. 8:02 left. It's 4th and 11 from their own 19-yard line. Lake Forest defense had absolutely dominated Indian River from the start of this game. There was no indication that Indian River was going to get to the end zone. Now, granted, their offense is great, and you never know. So there's a player running onto the field late for Indian River. So there's a wide receiver right next to Coach Freddie Johnson who's left alone. So Freddie Johnson yells something to the punter. The wide receiver didn't get the message. The punter takes the snap. And by the way, you got to see this play. He underhands it about 20 yards down the field, which is that this pass is incredible. I mean, he just whips it underhand.
Wow.
And my guess is they were looking to create a fake punt where it's actually a fake punt where the player thinks there's going to be pass interference, I think is what they were hoping for.
Gotcha.
But the receiver never stopped. He kept running down the field. So the pass just fell harmlessly 10 feet away from anyone.
Oh, okay. So
And the looks on the Lake Forest sideline as it hit the ground are just incredible. I will say this, and Freddie Johnson's a great coach. I have no idea what he was thinking here. Even if that play is successful, Indian River still has all three timeouts, and there's still 8 minutes left in the game. At best, you're going to burn maybe another 2 or 3 minutes off the clock.
right.
And I talked to Sean Green about this over the weekend, racking my brain. I cannot see one reason that he called this fake punt other than he just did not see that kid was running onto the field at all.
Right.
And just assumed that his kid was going to be wide open. But again, miscommunication.
Yeah.
Bottom line, Indian River takes over on the 19-yard line. Lake Forest did not make it easy. They made them work, but they finally get the touchdown. And then, of course, they win it in overtime.
Right.
The Indian River story, Coach Townsend, what he's done with that program is insane.
Yeah.
I'd say it's arguable whether moving from 1A to 2A might be the toughest jump of all, because you're going from the 1A group is down there for a reason.
Right.
The 2A group is right in the middle. They're good football teams. To do what he's done, to go undefeated at this level, and to beat a great Lake Forest team twice, to me is incredible. I mean, they beat Odessa twice. They beat Lake Forest twice. It's just been a phenomenal season. Dylan Grice at quarterback has been great. Darnell Stokes, I said last week, they sort of use him like Dover used John Parker a few years ago. They had an injury at running back, so they moved Stokes to running back, and you'd think the kid been doing it his whole career. The Indian River story is an incredible one. And as we were going off the air, Pat Arianes and I said, people may have wanted to see Indian River and Howard a couple of weeks ago. I don't think you could get a more compelling final right now than Red Lion and Indian River.
Yep.
I think it's a phenomenal final to look forward to. It's the game I'm looking forward to most, and that includes Sally's in Middletown, which are meeting again. Sally's for the third year in a row. But yeah, this is going to be fun. Hats off to Ken Anderson, Coach Townsend. Coach Freddie Johnson and his group had a phenomenal season. They came up just a bit short. This is going to be fun. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
No, there's no doubt about it. And, when we see these teams downstate, especially who go from Class 1 to Class 2 with success, the Indian Rivers, the Laurels, what it reemphasizes to me is the limited choices for alternate places to get an education and play football downstate versus upstate, where you're within a drive. If you live above the canal, you have dozens of schools to pick from. If you're at a school you don't like to be in, that's not the case downstate. And so those football players, no matter how good they are, they stay at their respective schools because the alternative's a 45-minute to an hour bus ride one way every morning. So congratulations to both those schools. All right, Marty, your pick, Indian River versus Red Lion. And that game is going to be played Saturday at noon. All these games, and I'll repeat it again later, are going to be covered by the NFHS Network, powered by 302 Sports. I was not able to find the Delaware Sports Network schedule up yet. I don't think it's done, but you can keep an eye on that. That's the paid subscription. And actually, I don't know whether they'll have access to it.
They will not.
They will not. Okay, I didn't think so. Now, as I was saying it, and so so that your resolution is NFHS Network, and again, you're going to pay a one-time 1-month subscription fee. I think it's like $12.99, and you can watch all 4 games, including the unified game.
And by the way, you can go back and watch the games that Howard, the McCain Conrad game, the Howard Red Lion game. They're all available.
They're all on demand. Yep, exactly. Yep. And for the next month, you can watch high school NFH sports from around the country.
Exactly,
because it's a one. So it's you're gonna pay more to go to the game. And I'm not trying to deter people from going to the game. I just know the reality of it is if you don't have a kid playing in it, you may not be going. Long story short, NFHS Net will cover it. Sean Green is covering the 3 tackle football games. He's not doing the unified game. He's doing the 3 tackle football games. And so you can listen to it on the WDEL. Again, remember, you can go to the WDEL app. So you can listen to it if you live in Alaska. You can listen to it. That's the cool thing now. You don't have to sit in the parking lot at WDEL on a Friday night and get the reception. So anyway, so you can do that. That's where you can hear them. So your pick, Marty, Indian River or Red Lion?
You know what? This is a tough one. Red Lion is beat up. They had several offensive linemen go down during the game. They're missing 3 starters from the season who cannot play because of the transfer rules. They had a player ejected in the first quarter of this game who will not be able to play this week. You know
That
what?
was Red Line. I'm sorry.
Red
That was
Line,
Red Line.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. I'm gonna. All that being said, I'm gonna go with Red Lion. I don't know. There's something, and you could say fate is with both teams, but the fight that these kids showed down what they were and what they had to come back from. This is no slight to Indian River at all. I'm going with Red Lion on gut and based on what I saw in that stadium on Saturday.
And I'm going the same thing. They have the momentum. I think they're probably going to get the speech from Ken Anderson that we're playing with house money. We got farther than people expected us to get. You mentioned a player being disqualified. I didn't realize that because I tuned
Yeah.
in toward the later part of the game. But they made their run without that player.
Yes, they did.
So
Absolutely.
if you had told me a player was disqualified in the second quarter and Red Line blew a 21-0 lead or blew a
Yeah.
16
Yeah.
point lead, I might have a different thought here. They won that game without that player, so
Yep.
obviously they
Yep.
can run it again. So I am also going to pick Red Line. I think it might be the best game of all. Well, I shouldn't say that. All of these games are going to be good championship
Yep.
games. In other words, if you had said at the beginning of the season or halfway through the season when we knew a lot about these teams, what do you think if these two teams were in the state championship game? There's not one of the three classes I would have said, nah, I wouldn't want that. It's going to be a legit championship game in that case.
Hey, John, I got a huge ego boost walking into the stadium. I go past the security with my bag, and a guy yells to me, "Hey, man." I turn around. He's like, "You look really familiar. Do I know you from somewhere?" And I said, I'm not sure. And he said, "Did you ever work security down in Middletown?" So I'm like, no, but thanks. We both went on about our day, and I'm like, man, nothing like. So I'm feeling great as I'm walking into the stadium there, and this guy checks me real quick.
You need to get out, Marty, more often to these
That's
games.
right. It's
Then
funny.
you'll
We
be
did run into
notified.
people. I
Yeah.
ran into people on the way up and down. They were like, I love the podcast. It's
Yeah.
cool that people recognize us
Yeah.
because of YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was
exactly.
neat. It was
Yeah,
neat.
I get that sometimes
And
too.
by the
So.
way, have you been in the press box at Salesianum?
You were telling me,
Oh
no,
my
you at
goodness.
Salesianum or at the
At Salesianum, at
Yes, I
Abyssinia
have been.
Stadium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have
Well, the
been.
Conrad
Yeah,
one was great. The Salesianum one is like, holy
yeah,
mackerel.
it's
It's like
it's
next
like a
level.
college one, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Amazing.
exactly. Yeah. All right. The Win the Day Planner was put together by Dan Rigby, who is a CR high school wrestling coach or was, and a longtime teacher there. It's dedicated to helping students, athletes, and coaches reach their full potential. It's basically like a diary, but unlike a
Yep.
diary where you just, write whatever you want, it's got blanks that you have to fill in. So it forces you to think, oh, this is important tomorrow or by Friday, that kind of thing. It's a wonderful resource. I have a copy of it, and I actually sometimes use it for myself
Hmm.
to think about what are some things I need to think about, especially now that I'm retired basically full time. So, but anyway, the great thing about this is it's available for free to teams in Delaware. And I don't
Yep.
just mean high school teams. College teams use it, youth teams use it, CYM teams use it, travel teams use it, et cetera, et cetera. It's been such a hit around the country because when it originally came out probably 3, 4 years ago, it wasn't free if you were in Delaware. Now that it is. So that tells you how successful it's been around the country and what a useful tool it is. It's free. It's a print or digital copy. You can check out their products at winthedayplanner.com. Again, that's winthedayplanner.com. It's an exceptional tool for free, and it's not one of those things, well, if it's free, you can imagine what you get. It is
Yes.
quality win the day planner and something that we would highly recommend having used it myself and having my boys looked at it as well. All right, I'm going to hop down to 1A, Marty.
Yep.
If that's all right with you, and we're going to
Sounds
start
good.
at the top of the bracket now that our big story is done and we wrapped up 2A. Newark Charter beat Brandywine 35-0. 4 takeaways, 2 defensive touchdowns, I think, before everybody got settled in their seats,
Yep.
at least the way that made it sound. And I was kind of watching that. I found out afterward that Brandywine was playing without arguably one of its star players due to it was a non-injury issue.
Yep.
And I don't want to take my hat off to Coach Isaiah Mays because I do, I guess.
I do
But
too.
it was probably one of the most difficult decisions he's had to make. And I heard from a few different people. His stance was, I cannot put a player above a team. And Marty, that's how you build a program.
Absolutely. I
That is
agree
how you build a
100%.
program at any school, any level, any size. And so I hope the parents supported Coach Mays because if you didn't, you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I know as a parent who's watched one child go through completely, two children go completely through high school in competitive sports, I would have supported the coach 100% if whatever that player did was enough to warrant this reaction from the coaching staff. Primarily Isaiah Mays. It would be his
Hmm.
final decision
Yep.
to hold that player out in a semifinal football game. And do I feel sorry for the rest of the team? Sure, absolutely. But that's what builds character
Hmm.
in the player, and in the player, hopefully in the player that was suspended or left out off the roster, but certainly the players who played the game and gave
Yep.
it 110%. And I'm not saying that the outcome would have been different. I'll
Right.
probably go out on a limb and said it wouldn't have been a 35 nothing running clock
Right.
difference.
Right.
But anyway, so enough of that. We don't want to belabor that. Newark Charter School had 280 total yards.
Hmm.
Austin Badegbe had 2 touchdowns. Lucas Aranzak was 5 for 5 on PATs. Just a couple of highlights there. They advance to the state championship game in their first year as a varsity sport. And I don't believe that has ever happened in any sport when the sport has already been established.
Right.
Obviously, you start unified flag football, somebody's going to
Right.
win it in their first year. So unified sports aside, in a sport where there has been established varsity competition in previous years, I can pretty much say for sure no school has ever won a state championship in that sport. And I don't want to hear, well, there's 3 classes and blah blah
I
blah, all
know.
that. The bottom line is there's not a lot of schools. And I cover this Newark Charter Schools in my readership area for the Post, so I'm pretty close to it.
Hmm.
And there are not a lot of high schools right now who, if you told me, hey, they're going to be a varsity team next year for the first time, that could pull this off.
Yep.
There could be 14 classes, and I'm not sure they could pull this off. I mean, you're talking about a school that had 80 kids, more than 80, come out on the first day of
Yeah.
practice back on August 15th. And they put together, I've always said, they have an all-star coaching staff,
Yes.
and they've just done an incredible job. They've done it the right way. They've done it with class. They only pull kids from within 5 miles of where people live. So
Yeah.
even if they were recruiting, you're only recruiting, and I'm not saying they're not.
Right.
You're only recruiting within 5 miles. The list to get in that school is about 4 generations long, and
Yep.
so anybody that says, well, they're recruiting for people to come play football, no, they're not. Those kids have been on the list for
Right.
10 years.
Yep.
People put their kids on that list when they're born, I think
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I know.
And so it's got nothing to do with that. And so congratulations to Coach Jody Russell. They've done it right. They've done it with class. They've done it with integrity.
Yep.
Those kids are all quality kids that, are playing football for the right way. And, the only negative is there's some that are playing tackle football that still wanted to play unified football.
Yeah.
And you just can't do both.
Yep.
But that's the kind of players that they are. So they're going to advance to their first state championship game. That game's going to be played on Saturday at 3:30, and of course they will face a Seaford team that's pretty darn good. But
Yep.
let's let you comment on the Newark Charter win first.
Yeah. One thing at the beginning of the season, it was in the preseason, I think, and Jody Russell kind of made sure, kind of measured expectations by saying, look, we have a lot of kids out here. What we don't have is a lot of football players.
Right.
Because remember, they were getting athletes from different sports. They were trying to get them to come out. The fact that they were able to cohesively put this team together this quickly and with this much success is fantastic. And as you said, that all-star staff he's put together down there, these kids are getting first-class instruction. This is such a great story. And Alex Burrows, he returned the fumble 32 yards, just a minute and 2 seconds to the game. Matthew Lasnik had the interception return that gave them a 14-0 lead. So right off the bat, Brandywine is playing, behind the 8 ball there. Phenomenal, or just to wrap up, phenomenal season for Isaiah Mays and his kids.
Yep.
To get the number 1 seed in the state tournament at Brandywine is phenomenal.
Yep.
Newark Charter just was on a different level on Friday, and congratulations to Jody and his kids. You always hear this was somebody had tweeted this was an incredibly clean played football game, which, by the way, aside from the one ejection, was the same case in the Red Line Howard game. Newark Charter is just a great story to follow. It's like you look at these first two. We got 2A, we got a compelling final. In 1A, you got a compelling final because you've got a Seaford team that has been in there forever against a Newark Charter team that is literally brand new.
Right.
So this is great storylines here.
All right, so Seaford with a 41-0 lead over McCain. Brendan West had 3 touchdowns. Glenn Phillips has put Seaford on the map. This is the first title game for Seaford since 1993.
Yep.
They lost 14-6 to Salesianum. And to think that Salesianum and Seaford would be in the same title game in the state of Delaware, maybe other than boys basketball, in
Yep.
any other sport is just mind-boggling because of the changes down in Seaford. And
It
everybody,
is.
DuPont moved out of Seaford, and so did 90% of the people. And so Seaford went from being a powerhouse in just about every sport to being an also ran, quite frankly.
Yes.
And and again, they don't have the benefit of people wanting to transfer to Seaford. It's down almost as far as you can go in the state of Delaware. So if you're an athlete in Dover, you're not going to play in Seaford,
No.
transferring and that kind
Real
of thing.
quick,
So, yep.
just the northern stuff. I just wanted to add this because you said that and made me think of it. 1980, Dickinson won the state title. They beat Caesar Rodney and Salesianum in the final and the semifinal and final. I'm like, the way the North has changed is just incredible.
Yeah.
And the Seaford experience, we always talked about when the nylon plant left down there, not only did the population suffer, but the school did, and they lost so much.
Yep.
And this was one of the talking points, I think, about the 1A, why the 1A is so important. It has really revitalized a student body that comes and watches these games at schools like Seaford. And you see some of the athletes they're putting on the field now. Evans is a baseball player. He's got a Division I baseball scholarship. He wasn't even sure he was going to play his senior season until his friends talked him into it. Now he's one of the best players in the state.
Yep.
This and to bookend, with McCain, Alhesia Booker, what he did there, getting that win over Conrad for their first ever playoff win, is just fantastic, and it's a great story for the Newcastle County Public Schools for them to do what they did. But this was not unexpected at all.
No.
Seaford is just way too powerful. It's a long drive down there. That defense is great. Their offense is great. So, Seaford did what the great teams do. They took care of business early.
All right, so brand new territory for both these teams in the title game. Back on October 17th, these teams are in the same district. Seaford beat Newark Charter School 33-7. I believe that game was in Seaford, if I remember correctly.
I will look that up.
But yeah, you can look that up while I finish my point. But you know how the saying goes, it's always tough to beat the same team twice.
It was in Seaford.
It was in Seaford. Okay. So Newark Charters, and distance travel doesn't matter in these games at this point. No, and actually they're both going to travel the same distance because the game's in Dover. So they're both going to have an hour bus ride. The game's going to be on Saturday at 3:30, which I think is an ideal time, Marty, because I think probably what's going to happen is these programs are going to have a breakfast at the school, and I'm just throwing it out there. I have no idea. Going to have breakfast at their respective schools. Which will keep the players from sleeping till noon, type of thing. When you get up and your body's all wacky, and so, I just think it's an ideal situation from that. I haven't looked at the weather, but I don't think weather's going to be an issue. It's going to be cold because it's November or almost December, and so this is a tough one for me. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with the Cinderella story. Which you might be asking me, well, what is it? Is it Seaford or is it Newark Charter School making it for the first time ever? I'm going to say it's Seaford because of the history of Seaford from where it was a state powerhouse back in 1993, and that wasn't the only year. To be in a game with the Sally's team that was exactly the same as it is now. There were still 180 people on the sideline in helmets.
That's right.
An exaggeration, but you get my point.
Yep.
Back then, it's not like Sally's grew from a school of 200 to a school of whatever it is now.
No.
They've always been that big.
Yes.
And for Seaford to come back, and it's the feel-good story, because here's the other feel-good. Newark Charter is a feel-good story, too. First time ever. Their games have been, if not sold out, close to it. They've got support. They will bring – I won't be surprised if they don't bring buses. In fact, I can tell you the school paid for students to go to the Brandywine game.
That was awesome, yeah.
So that's the way that school is. I mean, that's the support. And I'm not just talking about grades 9 through 12. I'm talking about grades K through 12 support. Anything that goes on at the high school. So that is a great story. But to me, Seaford is a Cinderella story. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to say it. I don't even know which team to root for because obviously Newark Charter School is my home team that's
Yep.
still left, along with Red Line. We covered the outskirts of Red Line.
Hmm.
They get into our boundaries of at the Newark Post. But when you're more or less, and I'm not going to call myself a beat writer for Newark Charter School, but I'm always in contact with Coach Russell. I'm always making sure they get press, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I feel that way. And so I'm going to be rooting for Newark Charter. I think I'm going to admit, with
Hmm.
all due respect to Coach Glenn, and that's his first name. I just call him Coach
Coach
Glenn.
Glenn Phillips. Yeah.
Glenn Phillips. Because I respect the heck out of him, and the help he's given us covering his team this
Yep.
year, getting
Yep.
information to us. But I'm going to have a smile on my face if Seaford wins because of their story. And I almost didn't want to pick this game. And I guess I'm not even picking. I'm just saying I'm kind of rooting for the team that I cover. And
Right.
I think Coach Phillips would respect that. But I'm going to have a smile on my face. And let me put it this way. Of the three games, the six teams that are playing in championships, this is the one that I have the biggest interest in and passion for,
Yep.
no matter who wins. Um, I'll tell you who I want to win. Who I think's going to win. That's going to be a think who wins, not
Right.
want to win.
Yep.
Same with 2A. It was think win, not want to win. And whereas this is a want to win,
Hmm.
and a want to win. I want both teams to win. If there could be a
I
tie,
get you. I get you.
and again, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop babbling. But I want both programs to realize how much I respect what they've done, and how much I am rooting for them.
Right.
I do think. This is tough. I'm going to go with it. It's tough when you have two teams that are competitive against each other, which these two teams are.
Yep.
That 33-7. I'm not sure the game was that far apart, so to speak.
Yes.
And I'm going to go with I think Newark Charter with that coaching staff, and this has nothing to do with the Seaford coaching staff. I'm not trying to compare the two, but I know how good the Newark Charter coaching staff is. And I think they'd be tough to beat twice. And so if I have to pick a team that I think is going to win, if I was going to put money on somebody, let's put it that
Yep.
way, I'm going to go with Newark Charter. But I'm going to have a smile on my face no matter who wins in 1A.
I am unencumbered by anything in this game.
Okay.
I don't care about either of these teams. in the way that I mean, I don't
Like
have
I
any
do.
connection to
Right,
these
yeah,
teams. Exactly. I love watching Seaford. I've gone back and watched Seaford highlights. Um, Vince Evans is just like a human highlight reel at that level. He's amazing. Brandon West, the West kid, is amazing as well. I'm just looking to see. I didn't want to screw up his name, which I may have done, but West is phenomenal for them. Uh, they are such a great story. It's funny if McCain or anyone else had been in this, if it had been Brandywine. I love the Brandywine team. I love Isaiah May's story and things like that. I think Seaford is just the pick for talent, and that's kind of what I'm going here because I love the Newark Charter story as well. All the kids coming out for the first season, and it's not like they rolled through everybody like we thought. At the beginning of the season, we thought they may actually roll some people here. They didn't. They struggled at times.
Yep.
And including the Seaford game. And I agree, it's very difficult to beat a team twice. I just think there's too much talent on both sides of the ball of football players. And again, that's not a shot at Newark Charter. They're more athletes on that team at this point, I think, than maybe just fully developed football players. And again, because a part of that's the lottery system.
Sure.
But I'm gonna go Seaford. I just think the offense is just too much, and the speed of that offense is incredible.
All right, and again, that's Saturday at 3:30 down at Delaware State. Tickets can be purchased on the GoFan app on the DIAA website. Just go to the DIAA website. You can search that, and it comes right up. The game will be Saturday at 3:30, and you'll be able to watch that on the NFHS network with the 302 Sports crew and also Sean Green on WDEL. All right, if you're looking to buy or sell your house, Mary Kate Johnston with Remax Associates will help you do it as if it was her own. An award-winning realtor with 20 years of experience. She sold our house 20 years ago, helped us buy the new one we're still in. We've recommended her to dozens of friends who in turn have recommended her to their friends as well. Doesn't matter your situation, a first-time home, helping your kids buy a home, etc. She's a great resource. Her website is marykatej.remax.com. That's marykatej.remax.com, where you can also see her 5-star reviews. All right, on to 3A, the big boys. This game will be Friday night at 7:30. And Marty, as an aside, I like all the games at Delaware State University. I think it's a great spot. I think they've got the way they've got the games spaced out. You'll be able to get cars loaded out before cars come back in, or at least a smattering of them anyway. And so I think they were a little concerned about whether it would be big enough for this 3A game. But there's no question that it's not going to draw a sellout crowd, I don't think, for different reasons. It's Black Friday, it's Friday night, it's on TV, et cetera, et cetera. So I like the move. I like it in the middle of the state. I hope it stays there. The Delaware Athletics facilities or Delaware State facilities are only supposed to get better with a new initiative they have.
That's right.
You know, the most important part of the stadium is the field. It's a turf field like every other turf field. So that's perfect. That's what you want, first and foremost, the playing conditions. And they are ideal. Sure, you can argue about what the stadium looks like. It looks like an old, you know what? It looks like Delaware Stadium used to look like 10 years ago.
Yep.
You know, an old stadium that's outdated. And when the heck are they going to get this up to the 21st century? And so, but the most important thing is it's a safe place to play. The parking is doable. It's manageable, as they proved last year. So I like the move. So that game's going to be at 7:30. It's going to follow the Unified, and I'll talk about that as soon as we wrap up this 3A. So Middletown beats Appoquinimink 28-20. A game that was closer than a lot of people thought it would be, especially
Definitely
the way
me.
Middletown blew out Appoquinimink just a few weeks ago. It was on November 7th. It was 32-7, and that was a game that I'm not even sure was a 32-7 game in and of itself. That game just Middletown dominated Appoquinimink. It looked like it was going to be over early. It was 14-0, boom, and then it was 14-13 by the half. All 4 scores were by touchdown passes. Second half, 28-13. Don Manobel's touchdown was a great one. It was on a tip pass off of one of the other wide receivers. And so he caught that and scampered into the end zone. And then Appoquinimink had the opportunity, but then they ended up fumbling the ball on the last drive. They were rushing. They were, trying to get the ball in. They were running out of time, et cetera, et cetera. Just wasn't meant to be for Appoquinimink. For Middletown, it's their 20th title game. They've got 9 titles total in the school's history, including back when they were a Division II school way back.
Yep.
And including last year. This is a rematch of last year's victory by Middletown. So they're looking to make it 2 in a row. Real quick, I'll talk about Appoquinimink and then let you wrap it up your thoughts on this game. They're going to have to replace Desai Drummond, and they're going to have to replace Dom Montabell and Jasir Rogers. Jasir Rogers, of course, a Division I wide receiver next year, has verbally committed to Oklahoma. Desai Drummond, not sure what division he will play in, but if he wants to play football, he will be able to play football next year. Same with Dom Montabell. He's a receiver that could probably play at the Division III level if he chooses to. They're also losing who I think is their best defender, Edge Von Brandt.
Absolutely.
And he will play somewhere if he wants to as well. And so they've got big shoes to fill next year. But congratulations to Coach Brian Timpson this past couple years with this group of athletes, more than a couple, past few years. They've been a legit title contender. And so he's put together quite a program there, and it will continue. Programs like that continue because they do it right. But your thoughts on Middletown's win over Appo?
I expected a bigger win for Middletown, but this was a great game. Appo did much more than I expected. Middletown just seems like, they're just rolling along now. Their defense does enough to win in this game, I should say. Their defense is overwhelmingly good. The only defense that's better may be Sally's defense, which is who they meet in the finals. Darian Cunningham is playing great football right now. Hanif Miller had a great game on the ground for them. I believe he was over 100 yards with a touchdown. Darian Cunningham can do it with his legs and his arms. this I kind of think I wonder there's so much talk throughout the week that we're going to see Middletown Sallies. You wonder if that gets in the heads of the kids, and that's
Right.
why they a little bit once they got that 14-0 lead, as you said, I looked at it and thought, okay, they're rolling downhill now,
Right.
and all of a sudden Appo said, not so quick. So I actually think this may be along the lines of what I said about Howard a few weeks ago. This may be a blessing for them that they had this tight game here to get them
Yeah.
refocused as they go against Salesianum. Yeah, rematch of last year's game that Sally's was winning big at halftime and eventually lost. But yeah, Middletown has been ever since those three out of state losses, they have just been on fire.
Yeah.
They got the interesting win over Smyrna, which was the only kind of blip on the schedule, but they're right where we thought they would be at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and if you had said to people, "Do you want Middletown and Sally's in a championship game?" Nobody would have said, "Nah, we'd rather see somebody else," just
Right.
because we want a good game. And
Yep.
I
Yep.
think it's hard to argue now because I think we both had Smyrna in that. Hey, could they be in that top two? But
Right.
it's been proven that at least in these games they're not. And so the
Yep.
two best teams are in the state championship game. Sally's beating Smyrna 43-20. Sally scored on 5 straight possessions. They
Yeah.
were just lights out, literally and figuratively, because
Yes.
apparently the lights went out in the fourth quarter down
Yep.
there in Smyrna. And but they came back on pretty quickly. I don't think it certainly didn't affect the outcome of the game. Put it that
Yep.
way. The second win against Smyrna this season, and the fifth straight. So Sally's has beaten Smyrna in 5 straight games, dating back a few years or whatever. Sally's is in the title game for the third straight season and the 17th overall with that win. For Smyrna, they've got 21 seniors, including Phoenix Henriquez, who's going to play up at Syracuse. The one bright spot is Drew Marks is back, Kamaz
Yep.
Kearney's back, and so they do have a couple of their stars back next year, but they will certainly miss Phoenix Henriquez, not arguably one of the best wide receivers in the state,
Oh yeah.
arguably the best wide receiver in the state.
Mhm.
And we'll see what accolades he gets coming up this week. The All-State team will be released. But your thoughts on the game, and then we'll make our picks.
First of all, Gene Deladon, 3 for 3 on state championship games now in
Yeah.
his 3 seasons as head coach of Sally's. So they definitely got what they wanted when they hired Gene. The Sally's offense has sputtered at times this year, and it was the offense that really got them going in this one early on. They were only up by 1 at halftime, of course, but they used, Odell Teal was a kid at Delaware Military Academy his freshman year, and he was kind of erratic. He's a freshman quarterback, so
Yep.
you couldn't really tell what he was going to do. His maturity on the field has been phenomenal to watch. He's one of the best defenders in the state. Gene decided to throw him in at quarterback. They put a package together, and Gene said when you play Mike, and he loves the staff at Smyrna. He said when you play Mike Judy, you got to do different things.
Right.
And I'm sure every coach in the state probably thinks, and they see him on the schedule,
Yep.
the same thing. So they put in a package for Odell Teal. And in the second quarter, he came in. Sally's took over on the 37 of Smyrna. I think it was after a turnover on downs. And he ran 5 straight times and eventually ended up with a touchdown. He got the 2-point conversion. It was just a great move that kind of shook things up a little bit.
Right.
Nab, the quarterback for Sally's, who's improved a ton over the course of the season, played a great game. But it was great to see Odell Teal get in there, a different kind of package. And then in the second half, the defense took over for Salesianum, and they're a clamp down, shut everything down defense. Their special teams is phenomenal. Odell Teal had a great game. Tyseer Jones had a 40-yard touchdown catch from Nab. Also had a big interception. I believe that came on a halfback pass in the end zone that Smyrna tried to run a trick play, and that kind of put the ice on the game, so to speak, for Salesianum. But for Sally's, they've had some ups and downs in terms of when you watch them, you weren't sure what you were getting offensively. Defensively, you knew what you were getting. You weren't
Right.
sure offensively. They've started to put it together offensively, and it reminds me of 2 years ago. They sort of did this same thing where the defense kind of carried them for a bit, and then the offense turns it on near the end of the season as everything comes together. So, Smyrna, a great season. I just think too much Sally's defense. You have Enriquez on the other side again is just phenomenal. Kearney and Marks, and to hold them to 20 points when they have been scoring a ton of points recently is a really big accomplishment. And again, the part that surprised me most was the 43 points from Salesianum. The offense really woke up, and Gene mixed things up in and out. And they're going to the championship game again for the third straight year. So yeah, hats off to Salesianum and Gene Deladon.
All right, I'm going to make my pick first. I'm going to go with it's hard to beat the same team twice, and I'm going to take Salesianum. Just a gut feeling. Just a gut feeling. These are two exceptional defenses,
Hmm.
and they are two very, very good offenses. And this could come down to which team has the players that play more disciplined. In other words, don't create unnecessary penalties, which gives the other team a first down because you can't give points away in a game like this between two teams that are very competitive.
Hmm.
And so again, I'm going gut feeling here, and I'm going to take Sally's.
I'm also taking Sally's. One name people maybe should think of is Aiden DeLucia, the kicker for Sally's, who does a really nice job. This could be a close game again, as it seems to be every time these two get together in recent years. Not necessarily. Um, this is hard. This is Middletown. Is Middletown? I'm thinking Sally's, and then I think Middletown is so strong offensively and defensively. I just feel like after that first game that they played and after the championship game last year, I just feel like Gene's going to put together a plan with that coaching staff. Again, that's another
Yep.
huge, great
Yeah.
coaching staff they have there to counteract some of the things that Middletown does. It's not going to be easy. That Middletown offense is loaded. Jack Wilson in that defense we've talked about all year long. These kids play with reckless abandon on defense. They will, they have no regard for their bodies on that Middletown side of the defense, but the Sally's kids are just as willing to get after it. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I have Salesianum just making a few adjustments here and there and coming out with the win.
And it was 16-6 that Middletown beat Sally. So not a blowout by any
No.
means, and not a game that bounce here or bounce there. Could have been the other way for
Yep.
sure. So, all right, that's our pick for 3A, both going with Salesianum. Andre Smith of Andre L Photography. He and his wife love to create portraits that go beyond the field. Their award-winning sessions are designed to capture people in their true authenticity. For seniors in high school, that means telling the story of their milestone year. For women in businesses, it's about a transformative experience that celebrates and elevates you. So he does more than sports. Whether it's senior portraits, personal branding, or the photo shoot you've always dreamed of, they're holding a space for you. Get started with your first session at andreelphotography.com. That's Andre, elphotography.com, and he's done a lot of work for my boys teams and our boys as well. I'm happy to talk to anybody about that. All right, before we go to the helmet stickers, I want to talk about Unified Cape upsets Indian River 52-44. Cape the 5 seed, Indian River the number 1 seed to advance to the state championship game, and Caesar Rodney 76-58. They defeat McCain. That was a number 2 versus a number 3 game. And, that's the way unified flag football
Yes.
is. You can score quick. And, the field is only 40 yards long. And so it can be a quick score. You get one first down. And so you're never out of it.
Right.
And
Right.
so that could be a great game as well. The championship, it'll be Cape Penlopen, who I should have looked this up. They may have been in a state championship flag football game before. They've never won it. They may have been in one. Caesar Rodney has won one, but Caesar Rodney has been in several. It's going to be in their backyard at Delaware State University. Basically, both these schools have great fan bases, so it should be a fun game. They should have a lot of fans at their game. That game is going to be on Friday at 4 o'clock. And it was bumped up so that they can clear the traffic and get the
Right.
big 3A fans in for that as well. And so that if you can make that game, that's certainly a fun time and a
Yep.
great experience as well. All right, let's do our helmet stickers, Marty. Again, how these helmet stickers work. Players, we send them to your coach. They'll give them to you. Please don't put them on your helmet. And even if your season's over, because you got to turn that helmet in and they don't want to have to chisel it off. We've designed it so it's the right size so that you can put it on your phone, your tablet, something like that as
Yep.
well. It was designed by Amy Hoff of Hoff Productions, de@gmail.com. The website where we have our merchandise on sale now.
Hmm.
That is also hoffproductionsde.com. And then click on the podcast button so that you can be sent to get t-shirts, sweatshirts, stuff like that. We hope you'll do it. And I'll remind people, we don't make any money off of that, Marty and I. We
Right.
just want to get the brand out there. So people
Yep.
ask you, hey, where is that podcast? Where can I find it? So we can talk about people in Delaware High School sports. And so Amy Hoff of Hoff Productions, but she does designs. If you're interested in somebody making a graphic for you or putting together a video of your team or your player or something, she's a great resource. She's done the graphics for Appoquinimink. If you see an Appoquinimink High School graphic, 99% sure she did it. Same thing with a video. And so that's the quality of work that you're
Yep.
going to get. So again, Hoff Productions, DE.com. You can email her at hoffproductionsde at. I'm going to start with my first helmet sticker. It's going to go to Indian River quarterback Dylan Grice. He had the game tying touchdown pass with under 6 minutes to go. He also plays defensive back, safety, and cornerback when needed. And so, just an exceptional athlete. I talked to his coach, Phil Townsend, and he said, and sometimes, Dylan didn't have tremendous stats in that win. There weren't, you only score 14 points. There's not going to be
Right.
tremendous stats. And it said, hey, I want to make sure I got the right guy. And he said, trust me, you got the right guy. He had that great pass to get the score and get that touchdown to tie it up. But he says, I asked him to start playing defense 4 games ago, and he'll play
Yep.
any of those positions I just rattled off. So my first helmet sticker, Dylan Grice from Indian River.
And just real quick, if people go to Beta Bay News at some point and look up Dylan Grice, his brother, who was his center as a freshman, I
I
believe,
do remember
is
that.
battling
Yeah.
cancer.
Oh, geez.
It's been a real tough battle for them, the Grice family. There's a phenomenal article. I think it's by Andy Walter in the Beta Bay News, but just a great story. So, our hearts go out to the Grices and hope for the best there. My first helmet sticker is going to Amir Madry at Howard. This kid, offensively, he's just a monster. And I was looking at stats, and then I finally came to the bottom of the page and it says District Defensive Player of the Year. I'm like, holy smokes. Okay, he's a great offensive player. He also plays. This kid hit so hard. This kid was the result that Red Lion is the reason they're so beat up after this week. He was all over the field. He reminded me of Vaughn Brooks from McCain last week, who did the same thing against Conrad. Madry was everywhere. 12 carries, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, and did everything he could defensively to get Howard the win, which they just came up short.
All right, so congratulations to him. I want to clarify, Dylan Grice, he may play on defense, but that's not who I was referring to when he said 4 games ago. It was Caden Anderson of Newark Charter School, who's my other helmet sticker. Wide receiver, had 5 receptions, 102 yards, 20 yards averaging, and didn't score any of the touchdowns. But Marty, as we know, a lot of times these wide receivers are the ones that set up the touchdowns. They don't
Yes.
get the touchdowns, but
Yep.
when you only catch 5 passes and you get 20 yards a pass, that's pretty significant. And it was Jody Russell that told me that 4 games ago he asked Caden to play defense, and he says it doesn't matter whether it's defensive back, safety, or cornerback. He's willing to do it, and he does it well. So, and again, Dylan Grice might play defense. I'm not sure, and he's
Yes.
certainly still worthy of that helmet sticker. But it was Caden Anderson who plays defense as well, and so my second helmet sticker goes to Newark Charter School's Caden Anderson.
And just real quick to bookend that the Austin Grice story. There was also a story in the News Journal, Kevin Tressolini on Austin Grice, the 19-year-old former Indian River player who's battling cancer. But my second helmet sticker goes to Odell Teal of Salesianum, who did a yeoman's work on offense. I think he had 6 carries, 43 yards, and the touchdown. On defense, 3 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. He batted down 2 passes. On that touchdown again, he had the 2-point conversion. He was a kid who's all over the field. And when it comes to special teams, I'm not sure there's a better player in the state right now than Odell Teal. He's someone to watch against Middletown. So Odell Teal gets my second helmet sticker.
All right, I'm going to go with Appoquinimink quarterback Desai Drummond, 20 of 35 through the air, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns to 3 different wide receivers, and so just a great game in a losing effort. But what you also don't see by those stats is how he manages the game. He was
Yep.
under pressure as he's been most of the season, and how he makes good decisions. In this game, made good decisions to when to throw the ball away, when to tuck it and run, and when to try to hit his wide receivers. So Appo quarterback Desai Drummond.
My next one is Jamison Bryant, the quarterback from Howard. Again, a sophomore, 12 carries, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, 14 of 19, 180 yards, and 2 more scores through the air. Again, as a sophomore, I tweeted that this kid was a magician. Some of his play action, it looks like he hands the ball off and you lose the football. Kid just does a phenomenal job running that team. So Jamison Bryant's my next helmet sticker.
All right, I'm going to go with Seaford running back Brendan West, 3 rushing touchdowns, 157 yards, just an incredible effort. Yes, it was a blowout, 41-0, but still, you get 3 touchdowns. And I talked to his coach as well, and he agreed 110%. That was the helmet sticker that should be awarded this week. So Seaford running back Brendan West.
And for my last helmet sticker, I'm going down to Hanif Miller, Middletown, 13 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Got a lot of tough yards, kept the drives going when they needed to against Appo to burn some clock when Appo got back into this game. So Hanif Miller is my last helmet sticker.
All right, my last is going to go to three people. The Red Lion extra point unit that kicked that extra point that sent them to their first ever state championship game. We'll start with the long snapper, where it all starts. If it's not a good snap, it's most likely not happen. J.R. Montgomery, the holder. If the hold doesn't happen, the kick's not happening. That's Matt Laverde. And, of course, the kicker, Tegan Norris, who, as you pointed out, Marty, hadn't kicked an extra point the entire game.
Right.
And as I pointed out, probably hadn't kicked an extra point since about an hour before the game started. And so congratulations to Tegan Norris, J.R. Montgomery, and Matt Laverde. And, of course, the offensive line's got to block. But we go with the three-man unit that makes the kick happen.
And, I think we started something because now if you notice in every article, whether it's Brad Myers or Down South, they all name the three guys in the unit.
I have noticed that,
I think that started with you and I pointing out it takes a unit to do it. So we'll take a little pat on the back for that one.
If not, we're going to take the credit anyway.
We're going to do it anyway.
Anyway, so that's your helmet stickers. Again, we'll send them to the school. Coach will get it to you. Please don't put it on your helmet. Put it anywhere else, as long as your parents are okay with it. All right, it's now time for the Promotion Zone Player of the Week, whatever, wherever, and however you want to promote your organization, product, or anything else. Promotion Zone can help you make the right decisions based on your needs and your budget, apparel, pens, coffee mugs, anything else. They have access to it. They've been in business for 16 years. They right here in Delaware, so they understand the importance of hometown relationships. You can see all their stuff at promotionzone.biz. You can also Google their Facebook page at promotionzone.de. Promotion Zone, the swag folks, since 2009 for all your branding and apparel needs. And they will send a T-shirt to our Promotion Zone Player of the Week. And this week's Promotion Zone Player of the Week is Evan Buttinger. 304 passing yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, 1 rushing touchdown. He became Delaware's all-time leading passer with 7,829 yards. And again, Evan Buttinger from Red Lion, just an incredible 4-year career capped by sending his team to the state championship game. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, I'm going to be a Monmouth fan for the next 4 years because Evan Buttinger got a scholarship there, and it was just phenomenal on Saturday. And Kenny Anderson did a great job of putting him in a position with the play calling to come back in that game. But Evan, if you get a chance, fans, whether you're a Monmouth fan or high school football fan, go to the NFHS Network, watch the replay of this game. Some of these throws are insane.
And you mentioned Kenny Anderson, and of course, he's the head coach. Mm-hmm. Also, Kenny Anderson Jr., I don't know if he's a junior, I'm assuming he's a junior, is the assistant coach, the offensive coordinator.
Yep.
They did an incredible job because when you have a quarterback like that for 4 years, you can do nothing but pass.
Right.
They had two of the best running backs in the state as well, and everybody was happy. You know, so there was at least externally, everybody was happy. Nobody was saying, I'm not getting the ball enough, I'm not passing enough. And so they've done a great job building a program there that puts the team first, no matter how good you are. Because when you have a Division I quarterback and your running backs are still scoring touchdowns and running for, in many cases, 150 plus yards a game, you've put something nice together there.
And I'll add this too. They've had to overcome some losses. They've lost in the past couple of years. They've lost 2 of their best players on the team to Middletown via transfer. And that's not easy to replace. And the Andersons have done a phenomenal job of just, next man up, get the job done. And they're in the title game. I love it.
Yep. Perfect. All right. It's now time for our weekly trivia question sponsored by the Marticelli Restaurant Group. They own the Chesapeake Inn, Klondike Kate's, and La Casa Pasta. You can enjoy signature crab cakes and other fresh seafood at the Chesapeake Inn, homemade pastas and seafood specialties at La Casa Pasta, or Klondike Kate's famous cheesesteak, egg rolls, and nachos. We can't thank the Marticelli Group enough for supporting our podcast and, in turn, supporting high school football here in Delaware. Marty, the floor is yours.
Okay, we're going to make this kind of easy, I think, because I'm not 100% sure. I didn't look this up completely yet. We're going to go with the question, who was the first recognized state champion in the state of Delaware in the tournament era? If you want to get your answers in, the best way is our Gmail, delhsfootball@gmail.com. That's delhsfootball@gmail.com. And the question is, who was the first recognized state champion in the state tournament era? If there was 2, and I'm not sure there was, but if there was 2, I'll accept either answer. Everyone goes into the drawing on Wednesday at 8 p.m. and we'll pick a winner. But it's state championship season time. We'll go with that.
All right, and just to clarify, the state tournament means there had to be a tournament. It's not the season ended, and this was the best team. And I know I'm just clarifying for people.
Not the old college way where they vote on a champion or the number one at the poll.
Right. Do you have last year's winners information?
I do not.
Okay, so we'll put that out.
I yeah, I
Yeah.
did notify the person and the winners because we had two last week, I believe. But
Yep.
yeah, we did.
All
And
right.
no, I actually forgot to do that.
All right. So we'll make a note and we'll announce that on the pod next week.
Yep.
But let's also get it. We'll get it out on social media so people know who it was. And congratulations to them. All right. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Marty, any last thoughts before we go into championship week? Four
Just that
games next
this
week.
Yep. Just that this is going to be an extremely fun week. That every one of these finals has a compelling component to it, including the unified final where the number
Yep.
5 seed is in the state championship game.
Yep.
Every one of these is going to be a compelling contest, and I'm looking forward to it.
Alrighty. Thanks to our sponsors, Marticelli Restaurant Group, Promotion Zone, Diamond Hill Incorporated, Mary Kate Johnson with Remax Associates, Dan Rigby, author of The Win a Day Planner, Andre L. Photography, and Amy Hoff of Hoff Productions. And of course, our presenting sponsor, Websites for Sports. That's websites, the number 4sports.com. Please follow us on X and Facebook, share us, let people know about the wonderful world of Delaware High School football. Until next time, for Marty Sheehan, I'm John Buzby. Have a great sports week.